Hello and welcome to episode 3 of HyperSpace, the fast space breakdown place coming to you from colorful Colorado. On today's episode, we'll be looking at the past week of space activity, including 4 launches and an EVA from the China National Space Administration. For launches from Russia and the United States, we'll normally publish an entire episode of HyperSpace. However, the state secrecy policy of China limits the information available on both their launch vehicles and payloads. For stretches of activity sponsored by China, like we've seen over the past 7 days, we'll cover more events per episode than normal. In addition to CNSA's impressive slew of activity, we saw a Cargo Dragon departure from the ISS, an important Panama Canal transit, a brand new drone ship, and major activity in Boca Chica. That's all coming up this week on HyperSpace. Kicking off China's quadruple launch week, a Long March 2D lifted off from Taiwan Satellite Launch Center's Launch Complex 9 on Friday, July 2nd at 9:51 p.m. Central Time. Standing just over 41 meters tall, the Long March 2D is capable of lofting 3,500 kilograms of payload to low Earth orbit, or LEO, and 1,300 kilograms to Sun Synchronous Orbit, or SSO. Friday's launch carried 4 remote sensing imagery satellites in the GLIM-1 family. Less than 48 hours after the launch of the 2D, CNSA launched a Long March 4C from Site 9401 at Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. The vehicle measures in at just under 46 meters tall and is capable of ferrying 4,200 kilograms to LEO and 2,800 kilograms to SSO. The mission lifted off at 6:28 p.m. Central Time on July 4th and carried a Fangyun 3E weather satellite to the Sun Synchronous Orbit. The next launch for the CNSA lifted off at 10:53 a.m. Central on Tuesday, July 6th from Launch Complex 2 at Xichang Satellite Launch Center. This time around, the CNSA's launch vehicle of choice was the Long March 3C-E. Unlike the preceding launches, the 3C-E has 2 strap-on side boosters, giving the launcher considerably more capability. The 3C-E stands over 55 meters tall and is capable of delivering 8,000 kilograms to LEO and 3,900 kilograms to Geostationary Transfer Orbit, or GTO. Tuesday's mission carried a Tianlian-1 data satellite to GTO. This satellite will be used for tracking and communications with future crewed missions from the CNSA. Rounding off China's big launch week was a Long March 6 lifting off at 6:59 a.m. Central on Saturday, July 9th. The mission departed from the Taiwan Satellite Launch Center Launch Complex 16. The Long March 6 variation is capable of bringing 1,080 kilograms of payload to LEO. Saturday's launch delivered 5 Ningxia-1 remote sensing satellites. Little is known about the specifications or direct mission of these payloads. By now you've likely noticed there's a pattern in the naming scheme of CNSA's rocket. The name Long March refers to the highly important Long March retreat of the Red Army during the Communist Revolution in 1934. Historical notes aside, 4 launches in 7 days just wasn't enough work for CNSA last week. The first extravehicular activity in support of the brand new Tiangong Space Station was conducted on July 3rd. The spacewalk began at 7:11 p.m. Central and was concluded at 1:57 a.m. 2 of the 3 on-station taikonauts performed the EVA, Liu Boming and Tang Hongbo. This was China's second EVA in the program's history and was over 6 hours longer than the first. EVAs from CNSA's taikonauts will become increasingly common as construction on Tiangong continues in the coming years. Despite an uncharacteristic lack of launches, SpaceX also had an eventful week beginning on July 8th at 9:45 a.m. Central when the CRS-22 Cargo Dragon capsule undocked from the ISS. Cargo Dragon C-209 splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico at 10:29 p.m. the following day. Dragon returned several tons of cargo to the Earth from the orbital laboratory, including time-sensitive experiments that were immediately flown back to NASA scientists for analysis. In addition to the ability to return payload to Earth, Cargo Dragons are reusable, and C-209 will be refurbished for a future flight over the coming months. The SpaceX booster recovery team was also quite busy despite the lack of launches. The autonomous spaceport drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, completed its month-long journey to the West Coast after a Panama Canal transit aboard the Mighty Servant 1 heavy-lift cargo ship. The drone ship departed Port Canaveral on June 9th and was finally offloaded on July 8th. Of Course I Still Love You will support Falcon 9 missions out of Vandenberg Space Force Station in California later this year. Just Read the Instructions remains in Port Canaveral as the sole operational drone ship for launches out of the Cape. That will soon change, however, as the brand new fully autonomous spaceport drone ship, a Shortfall of Gravitas, began sea trials earlier this week on July 9th. Unlike Of Course I Still Love You and Just Read the Instructions, a Shortfall of Gravitas does not require a tug to the landing zones and will be capable of traveling to and from booster recoveries under its own power. A Shortfall of Gravitas will soon join her sister ship in Port Canaveral to support booster recovery off the Space Coast. And finally, we make our way back to land in South Texas for our Boca Chica roundup. Starship SuperHeavy Booster BN3 was detached from the lift crane earlier this week and has begun its test campaign. The Starbase team conducted an ambient temperature pressure test of the non-flight booster on July 8th, and the test appears to have been a success. The next phase of testing will almost certainly be a series of cryogenic pressure tests, followed by a possible static fire. However, no Raptor engines have been attached to the booster so far. That doesn't mean there aren't plenty of Raptor engines at Starbase right now. Production on the engines has increased significantly over the past months, and more engines are being delivered to South Texas each week in preparation for Starship's upcoming orbital test flight later this summer. And with that, we'll finish off the first week-long recap episode of HyperSpace. In the coming days, we'll keep an eye on the battle of the suborbital billionaires, as Virgin Galactic's Sir Richard Branson is set to fly to space aboard the VMS Unity 22 spaceplane on July 11th, the day this episode will be published. Additionally, Jeff Bezos is slated to fly aboard the first crewed flight of Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket no earlier than July 20th. All signs point to Branson and Virgin Galactic as the winners of this new space race. Thanks for tuning into this episode of HyperSpace. We hope you learned something new, and if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends and family. Until next time, thanks for listening, and keep trucking.